with my bench set up finally. The first thing that I've ended up having on the bench is nothing to do with cars at all. It's this little old-fashioned projector. We took a whole bunch of stuff to the op shop to donate, and of course when you're donating stuff you also have to go and have a look inside, and I saw this box and I quite liked the box. It's a nice solid sort of trunk type thing. It's all lined inside, and inside it was this little, I think it's from the 1940s or 50s, Specto 8mm film projector. And because it was from the op shop, the power plug was cut off it, because then they don't need to do an electrical test on it and they can sell it for as parts. So I put a new plug on it, and I probably should have opened it up first to see what was wrong, but I thought, I'll just plug it in, and it went fit, and there was a spark and all the RCDs tripped. So I had to strip it down, and it turns out the problem was really simple. So the way it works is it's mains voltage. There's a big resistor in there which drops down the voltage to the bulb, because the bulb is a 500 watt 115 volt bulb, and the motor is mains powered, and it goes through this old-fashioned wire wound rheostat, and basically one of the wires had come off that. It had broken off. Actually, I'll just turn that off before I go poking around in there. So this was a little bit corroded, so I took this apart, I gave it a clean with some electrical cleaner, soldered the wires back on. It's looking a bit tight. I might put some heat shrink around that. Actually, that doesn't seem very good. It's almost like it's broken again. And after doing that, it fires straight up. So these projectors are for standard 8mm film, not Super 8. There is a difference. It came with a couple of films. I have no idea what they are. So probably the whole thing really needs a clean and re-lubrication of all the gearing, although it doesn't look too bad. I think it's meant to last pretty much forever. It's got all the drive belts and things, and it does seem to work. So if we plug it back in, apparently these connectors are really, really hard to come by. They're quite sought after. So the controls, this just turns the motor on. See a little mechanism in there. The rheostat controls the motor speed. And then the next setting is for the lamp. So it has a low intensity setting, which you use to warm the lamp up, and then you can switch it to high. I'm not sure how long you're supposed to wait, but it throws out quite a bit of light. I mean, the lights are on in the garage here, so you can see it is working. So I think for now I'm just going to put it together and see if I can run a film through it, and if it all works, then at some point I'll look at restoring it. I have no idea how you restore these things. I imagine it's like most mechanisms. You probably just clean out all the old grease and dust and rubbish, polish everything up and re-lubricate it and put it back together. So I'll have a search on some forums and see if I can find information about how you're supposed to deal with these things. It is missing one of the feet off the bottom. I'll have to replace that. But the whole thing is just really nicely made. Very sort of Art Deco-y almost. This fits on the top. I haven't figured out how you open up the film gate part yet, but I don't think you need to actually thread it. I think you just thread it by slotting it through. This should open somehow. I haven't quite figured that out. I spent quite a bit of time online looking for an instruction manual for it, and then had a second look in the box and found it actually came with one. So this tells me how to work it, how to thread it up. So I'll give that a try now. Seems like my repair has worked because I have the machine going now. The first position on the switch just starts the motor. Turns out this reel is backwards, or it's been played, so it needs to be rewound, but I didn't realize that until I was halfway through, so I'm just letting it wind through and pick up on the take-up reel, and then I think it's the right way round. It seems to be feeding through okay. If you turn on the lamp, it's going to be hard to see because of the light. I mean, I'm getting something, but it's not very stable. So obviously something needs adjusting or cleaning or tweaking. The lamp actually has 2 positions, so that's a little bit brighter. The flickering is actually the film. I'm not sure how this is going to look on the phone camera at all, but something's not quite right there. Something's out of sync. Maybe the shutter is out of sync with the gate or something like that. I don't really know much about projectors. I just know in theory that well, we won't be able to see it, but down inside there's the rotating shutter, which has to be synchronized with the framing on the film. So maybe something's out of whack there. Maybe there's an adjustment I haven't figured out yet. But it is working. I suspect it all needs a really good clean because there is smoke coming off it, which will just be dust. There's a big wire wound resistor in there to drop the voltage to the lamp. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but you turn that off and there's quite a bit of smoke coming off it, which will be, I suspect, is just dust burning off. But it does seem to be working. It does say in the instructions that this top belt needs to be crossed over, so I have got it that way. And I think normally the film would come off this way round. I think at the moment that top reel is actually just sort of freewheeling and it's been pulled through by this bottom one. But generally it seems to work. I'm going to do a bit more research on them, figure out how you're meant to take care of them and adjust them and clean them, and I'll probably give it another go then. Now I need to get back into car stuff and finish building my second workbench, I think. So I'm pretty sure that first film I tried was wound on the spool backwards. So I'm testing out the rewind function here. It seems to work. And I'm putting it back on the spool what I think is the correct way around. That seems to be going okay. And then once I've got it rewound back on there, I'm definitely going to stop for the night and go back to my workbenches, I think. That's the second bench finished. This one's a little bit shorter than the first one, just because of the timber I had, the way I cut things. It's the same depth, and because this one doesn't have a vise on it and isn't used for hammering and that kind of stuff, it's I didn't bother putting in the extra supports for it, but it's pretty solid because it's shorter. And that's more things now up off the floor. I might actually put the little folding brake up on here as well. I think that'll be quite a good place for it. One thing that's interesting in here is There's all sorts of wildlife in this shed, all sorts of bugs. I'm not sure where they come from. I guess they just come in from outside. But I've seen beetles and crickets and grasshoppers and all sorts of things, wasps, flies. And tonight, a fairly decent sized spider who I will take and put outside somewhere in the garden.